I'm going to share with you my portable mastering setup and a couple of tips for working when you're not able to be in the studio. I'm Mike. I've been a professional audio engineer for 25 years, with the last 18 focusing on mastering. Along the way, I've had the opportunity to work with artists like the brand new Heavies, Katie Tunstall, Sean Lennon and Matt Berry. I've also toured in 35 countries as a drummer, and I'm here to share with you what I've picked up along the way. Over the last few years, I've put together a portable mastering rig that allows me to work pretty much anywhere. I've mastered records when travelling and on tour in Europe, even in hospital in the UK, where working on music was one of the things that kept me sane when I had a bone marrow transplant for leukemia. Although less is definitely more, especially if you're flying to places, there is a certain amount of equipment that you need if you're going to do good work. I've managed to get this down to a single small case, plus my laptop, which I will be travelling with anyway. The fact that you can do this now is just fantastic. Okay, so starting with the most important thing, that's my monitoring setup. I've always loved ribbon tweeters for the way they reproduce transients and the fact that I can work on them for long periods of time without fatiguing my ears. The favourite at the moment for me are the Head Type 30s Mark II, which I've got in the studio behind me. They really sound great. A few years ago, Head introduced their own headphone. This was, as far as I know, the first headphone to feature a full-range ribbon driver. We did a launch event for them in the UK at the studio, and they were just fantastic. The only way I can describe them is that they put you inside the music. I was hearing low end and subs properly, transients on kick and snares, sibilants on vocals, all of these things that I really struggled with on headphones before I was able to hear on this particular set of headphones. And so these are my headphones. These are the headphone ones, and they travel with me everywhere. These headphones need a really good quality headphone out with lots of power to drive them, and I'm fortunate that I've had help from Chord Electronics, who are a fantastic hi-fi and pro audio company. They're actually just down the road in Maidstone, and they make incredible hi-fi gear. In the studio, I use their TT2. I use this as a headphone amp and also as a really good digital to analog converter if I want a different flavour from my bowls. But for travelling, they do something a little bit smaller called a Hugo 2. This is a brilliant sounding unit and it's built like a tank. It's powerful enough to drive the headphones, and it's also a great digital to analog converter. But the feature on this that I really love is the crossfeed, which I use all the time. For Pro Tools in the studio, I use an M2 Max laptop with an HDX card in a chassis. This is perfect because it means I can just take the laptop with me for working remotely. There are a couple of extra things I use to make all this work. One of these is a CalDigit Thunderbolt 3 dock. They do a newer version now, but the Thunderbolt 3 for my use is perfect. This actually has enough power to charge the laptop so I don't have to carry around the Apple brick, and it has all the connections I need to go into the Hugo. I also have a Bluetooth number pad, just a cheap Amazon one. This means I can continue to use my Pro Tools keyboard shortcuts. Of course, I've got an iLock, and I've also got a couple of SSDs. One of these is a bootable clone of my laptop using SuperDuper, and the other is just to back up whatever projects I'm working on while I'm away. I also use the macro and shortcut SoundFlow software. In the studio, I use this with a Stream Deck. On the road, I can use this with my iPad or my phone, and it works pretty well. Okay, that's the technical stuff taken care of. I also wanted to match up as best I could my analog chain for workflow and gain staging. I've done this using several plugins, and although they don't sound exactly the same, they come pretty close to the extent that I just make adjustments when I'm working. For me, I can work either way and get a great result. I'm using the Apogee Pultex for this, along with a UAD Fairchild 670, which recreates my mastering chain. I'm also using their Motown EQ, the UAD one. A similar vibe to it to the Decca EQ. Certainly the frequency centers are exactly the same. It's uncanny. It's a different flavour, but it does a similar kind of thing that I want in terms of weight and clarity. In the studio, I'm using a UAD satellite for some of their plugins. For travelling, I subscribe to the UAD Spark plugins, which is great because I don't have to take the hardware with me. So a few things to keep in mind. If you use an iLock and travel with an iLock, you've got to get the theft and downtime coverage, or theft and loss coverage. I can't remember what it's called. It's basically an insurance policy. I have a brand new spare iLock that's still sealed, goes with me everywhere. I have one in the studio and I have one that stays in the case, because if you lose that or it breaks, you're really stuffed. I also have a small Peli case for my Hugo and my headphones, and also one for my laptop. These are expensive, but they're worth every penny. They have a lifetime guarantee. I've been all over the place with them. They've been in aircraft holds, they've been in the back of vans, they've been in the rain, they've been on boats. They're pretty indestructible. You get what you pay for, and they come in nice bright colours, so you can't lose stuff. Learning how the headphones relate to my speaker setup in the studio has been pretty time consuming. I've been in this room for 10 years, I have a Trinnov, I've spent many thousands of hours mastering audio, recording audio, mixing audio. I know the room like the back of my hand, and I know that if something feels and sounds good in here, it's going to translate really well outside. So working on headphones, it's taken a lot of back and forth. As great as the headphones are, they are a different medium. I've got a reference playlist where I've got the outer edges of things, how much sibilance I like, the most sibilant track I would want, the most low end, vocals buried, vocals on tops, loud snare drum that sits back, full range, stuff that's really compressed. I've got a playlist that I've covered in another video that I'll probably reshare at some point, where I've got all the outer edges of those, and that's been really useful in going back and forth between the speakers and the headphones. But bottom line is, you have to put the time in so that you feel confident with something. The other thing I've found working on headphones is it's really easy to crank them up loud and not realise. Just watch the level. If you'd like me to master one of your songs, sign up for the newsletter, there's a link below. There's some discounts in there for mastering, which is great. Please like and subscribe, it does make a difference. Leave a comment, look after yourselves and each other. See you next time.